parents should ban books because of exposure. If kids read violent books, it can cause them to act violently and aggressively, which is not good because people like your child can get hurt or someone else can. Procon.org. This ties into safety because if you ban those books, it can help your child. Secondly, some books are too violent and bloody for kids, like When Dad Killed Mom or To Kill a Mockingbird. Those books could be in libraries, so banning them will keep your kid and others safe. Procon.org. Lastly, literary works containing explicit, vulgar, and obscene language were on the approved reading list for grades 7 to 12, according to Speak Up for Standards. Some denominationists don't allow cursing, and people who are Judaish also don't allow cursing. Banning books will stop others of their religion from reading them. Contention 2, behavior. When kids are exposed to bad material, their behavior will change negatively. When parents have full control over the content their children get to read, they can ban books that encourage inappropriate behavior, which helps others be safe. Kids also can start making poor decisions by acting like bad book characters. The American Academy of Pediatrics has found that exposure to violence in media, including in books, can impact kids by making them act aggressively and desensitizing them to violence. This shows the impact of underage kids reading overaged books. Contention 3, age groups. Parents should be able to ban books because of age groups. Literary work containing explicit, vulgar, and obscene language were on the approved reading list for grades 7 to 12. Books that are bad for children are allowed for teenagers. Essentially, my idea of banning books only for certain ages. This will make it so that children who aren't yet ready for a certain book are not allowed to read it, and the children would be exposed to only each other. Video games have ratings, and books are heavily similar to them, so why not book ratings? The restricted books would be unallowed for 4 to 6 year olds. If it had something troubling, it would be limited for 7 to 10 year olds if it had blood or death, and it would be restricted for 11 and 12 year olds if it had bloody death, etc. In conclusion, parents should be able to ban books because of exposure, behavior, and age groups. We are now ready for cross-examination.
Judges, are you ready? In contention 3, you were talking about banning books for all. In contention 2, you talked about inappropriate behavior. How does safety tie into that?
Well, safety ties into it because if you can ban books that encourage inappropriate behavior, then it helps keeps it keeps the entire community safe instead of just one person.
Where did you get your information from contention 2 and 3?
Literary works.
Could you repeat that?
Pass.
In contention 2, you said that children could change their behavior if reading an inappropriate book. How would that make the children change behavior?
Well, because children are young age. That in a young age, children will want to learn, and if they get exposed to inappropriate content, they'll think that's correct, and behavior will change.
Can you give me an example?
I have a friend, 4. He read an inappropriate book, and then from liking cars, he's now trying to shoot me.
How often does an inappropriate book get into a school or public library that is inappropriate for the age group?
Relatively often, but they get banned.
That's all the time we have.
Imagine you're a kid at school reading your favorite book, and the next day that book is banned. How would you feel? Mad, confused, sad? Hi, I'm Evelyn, the Lean Summarizer, and my teammates are Frank the Crossex and Jason the Rebel. Our value is fairness, and we argue that parents shouldn't be allowed to ban books from schools and libraries because of reality, blocking resources, and individual choices. Our first reason the books should not be banned is because of reality. Parents also need to realize that they can't shelter their kids from the language they will hear in their day-to-day life. In all the books I've read in school, I've never seen any language I hadn't already heard in the halls. This quote is from Trojan Messenger, why we shouldn't ban books in schools. This is true because your child would have to learn that life is not perfect at some point. If you ban a book that does this stuff, they won't learn what problems they might have in life. Children need to know what happens in the world. Eventually, they'll find out about things like racism, violence, rape, and other things that have caused books to be challenged. It's better for them to find out about what goes on in the world through a book than for them to be clueless. Some parents do not teach their children about the reality of the world. Those children should be able to turn to their local library to learn about things their parents will not teach. This quote is from the article Open Opinion, Books Should Not Be Banned from the Journal. Of course, this may not be age appropriate for children, but you can just tell them about it once they get older and not let them read that book. These points go with our value of fairness because adults should be able to have because children should be able to have an idea of the reality of the world as well as parents should. This is unfair to kids who have no say in what goes on in school. Contention 2. Banning a book can block resources for kids that they might need. Books are an essential resource for learning and development. So if a book is banned, it prevents kids from accessing valuable knowledge and ideas. This can slow down their growth and development and can stop a project that uses it as a resource, which is unfair to kids who need it. Progon.org says, banning these books would deprive students of essential cultural and historical knowledge, as well as differing points of view. This shows that if you ban a book, it removes resources for kids in school. It corresponds to fairness because children should be able to have access to all informational books. The last reason adults should not be able to ban books is that people should be able to make their own individual choices. Goodnight Moon by Margaret White Brown would have made the top 10 list in my top the library notes, but for a fact that influential New York Public Library children's librarian Anne Carroll Moore disliked the story so much when it was published in 1947 that the library didn't carry it until 1972. Who was Anne Carroll Moore, and what was her problem with the Great Goodnight Moon? This article is called How One Librarian Tried to Squash Goodnight Moon from Slate, and it talks about this one librarian who thinks that perfectly fine books should be banned because she thinks it's too sentimental or sad. Because if you go read it for yourself using the article goodnightmoonbook.pdf, there's nothing wrong with it. This goes with fairness because it is not a good decision to ban a book for your own ridiculous reasons and not let any other person read it. You can't just not read it yourself or tell your child not to. I have never known any distress that an hour's reading did not relieve, Montesquieu. Once again, we believe that adults shouldn't be able to ban books because of reality, fictionality, and making individual choices. With the support of our value of fairness, we are now ready for the cross-examination.
Judges, are you ready?
In contention 1, you mentioned that you shouldn't ban books because of reality. How does it connect to fairness?
Because if you learn about the reality in life, then it will be fair because your kids will try to stay away from it.
You said that most books were banned because of about real things in contention 1. Yes or no?
Yes.
You said that most banned books were fictional in contention 2. If true, then why should those books not be banned if they have no educational value?
Because it might be like entertainment for the young readers.
But it could be inappropriate for other people.
Then they would be learning about reality.
What if they have a young age?
Then their parents could explain it to them, so then they would try to stay away from it.
Your argument is based on morals. Do you have any factual support?
As
Why isn't it a good idea to ban books if you can keep kids safe? That's it.
Judges, are you ready? So, to summarize our contentions, in contention 1, we talked about exposure and how reading books with violence or blood can cause your kid to act aggressive, and a lot of books have that type of stuff. And also, some religions don't cuss, like Jewish and Christian people. And that, this is a quote, literary works containing explicit, vulgar, and obscene language were on the approved reading list for grades 7 to 12, according to Speak Up for Standards. In contention 2, we talked about that how when kids are exposed to bad material, their behavior will change negatively. When parents have full control over the content their children get to read, they can ban books that encourage inappropriate behavior, which helps others be safe. And in contention 3, we talked about how video games have ratings and that books are really similar to video games. So why not book ratings? The restricted books would be unallowed from 4 to 6 year olds if they had something troubling. It would be limited to 7 to 10 year olds if they had blood or death. And it would be restricted for 11 and 12 year olds if it had bloody death. Also, they had some weak answers. For example, on some of them, he passed, and then he gave a kind of poor answer to how fictionality ties into how reality ties into the value. And they also had some moral ones where they didn't really answer.
Once again, my name is Evelyn, the Leanne Summerser, and my teammates are Jason being rebuttal and Frank being cross-sex. Our value is fairness and goes along with reality, blocking resources, and making others individual choices. Reality corresponds with fairness because children need to read realistic books so that they can learn the reality of the world to figure out what problems they might have in real life. It's not fair if they cannot do that by themselves. In this contention, we use the sources Trojan Messenger and the Journal. Blocking resources goes with fairness because children should have the right to read informational books. It is not fair if they don't have the materials to expand their mind. They wouldn't be able to learn new things if informational books were banned. In this contention, we use the source program.org. Lastly, people being able to make individual choices goes with fairness because people should be able to be independent and make their own choices on whether or not they should read a book. It is not fair to kids if they aren't able to do it. In the last contention, we use the sources hempsteadschools.org and Slate. Now we are going to talk about the questions and answers against the affirmative team. First of all, we asked them the question, where did you get your info from contention 2 and 3? And they passed. Next, we asked, In contention 2, you talked about inappropriate behavior. How does safety tie into that? And they said safety ties into it because if you ban books, then kids will be safe. They didn't actually answer the question. They just said it would make kids safe. To close out the summary, we will add a quote from John Cena. Be loyal to those who are loyal to you, and respect everyone, even your enemies and competition. Thank you.